Hello bibliophiles, my name is Tanvi Dikshit and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the first ever video on this channel. Now before I start off, let me do a quick introduction about myself. My name is Tanvi Dikshit. I'm a microbiologist by education, a traveler by profession and a reader by passion. Growing up, my entire childhood revolved around books. Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Twilight. I literally grew up in the world of books, and as I transitioned into adulthood, the genres and titles that I read changed, but my love for books never did. So on this channel, I'm going to talk everything books. And for my first ever book review, I decided to go for Lessons in Chemistry, a pretty recent read which has actually left a big impact on me. So let's get right into the review. Now let me start off by telling you a little bit about the novel and the author. Lessons in Chemistry is actually a worldwide bestseller written by Bonnie Garmus. Born in 1957, Bonnie Garmus is an American author as well as a copywriter who's from Seattle. This is actually her debut novel, which released in April 2022 and went on to become an instant hit, especially with women across the globe. Bonnie Garmus is a rower, an open water swimmer, a mother of 2 daughters, and most importantly, a dog called 99. Okay, let me tell you how I decided to pick this book up. Now, I was attending Jaipur Literature Fest this year, which is not one of India's but one of the world's largest literature fests. And there, Bonnie Garmus was actually one of the panelists. She headed a lot of discussion panels, as well as there was an entire session dedicated to discussing her book Lessons in Chemistry. When I heard her speak, I was actually amazed at the way she spoke, at the kind of feminist sentiment that this book seemed to depict, because I saw how the women and the girls in the audience were reacting to this book. They had an unending stream of questions for Bonnie, and she gave some fabulous answers to all those questions. So that was a moment when I decided, okay, I have to read this book. And luckily for me, I ended up getting a signed copy by Bonnie Garmus herself. So let me quickly show you. This is a signed copy by Bonnie Garmus, which I'm reading. Let's get a little bit into the specifics of the book. Now, this book is 386 pages long, but honestly, it does not feel like it. The language is very easy. It flows really fast. I think finished more than half the book on a single long haul flight. So you can literally finish it in a day or two. The book is divided into chapters, and the best part is that the book almost runs like a screenplay for a movie, because it's written almost entirely in the form of dialogues that makes it extremely engaging and immersive. The language is very easy, beginner friendly. If you're somebody who's not an avid reader and this is the first book you pick up, it'll be very easy for you to get engaged in this particular book. Also, what I love is at the end of every chapter, you're kind of left hanging. You sort of want to know what's going to happen next. That makes it one of those books that you don't want to put down and just finish it all in one go. Now, let me tell you the plot of the book in short. Set in the 1950s and 60s, this book narrates the story of the protagonist, Elizabeth Zott. She is a smart, driven, intelligent, independent, pretty woman who is looking to make it big in the field of science. Needless to say, the society at the time was not conducive to women in science. As she tries to establish herself as a successful chemist, she keeps on coming across sexist men, sexist situations, gender discrimination every step of the way, that keeps on posing challenges for her to achieve success in the science world. The book then takes you through Elizabeth's journey as she has to give up on her dream of becoming a scientist because of the societal norms of how a proper woman should be. She then goes on to become a TV show host. She starts hosting this cooking show called Supper at 6, which teaches a lot more than just cooking to women. She basically treats it as her chemistry lab and goes on to become this popular sensation, especially among women. Now, let me quickly take you through the characters without giving too much away. First and foremost, of course, is our protagonist, Elizabeth Zott. Now, she is extremely smart, motivated. She's a very career oriented woman, wants to make it in the world of science. She's a chemist. She's really, really good at what she does. She's independent. She's had a slightly traumatic childhood, so she's sort of scared of being vulnerable or being too sensitive or emotional. She is facing constant sexism in the world of science and later just in the world out there because of the lifestyle that she chooses to live. And she is extremely strong in the face of it all. Next up is Calvin, the award-winning scientist, the star rower. He's slightly intimidating to most people, not just because of his physical stature, which is very huge, but also because of how intelligent he is and how much he's achieved in life. Although he puts up this hard exterior, he's actually a softie inside. Next up is Madeline, or Mad for short, a child who is spectacular, a child who reads entire books at the age of 3, a child who keeps on asking curious questions about how the world works. And last but not the least, my most favorite character in the book, the dog called 630. So 630 initially works for security forces, but he's clearly ill-suited for the job. He eventually finds a home in Elizabeth and becomes a very, very important part of her life story and one of the most important characters in the book as well. I think what makes this book extremely engaging is the fact that it's been written from different perspectives. The book does not just narrate Elizabeth's perspective, but it also takes into account Madeline's perspective, Harriet's perspective, and especially 630 the dog's perspective. This is what Bonnie had to say in one of her interviews. The story was inspired by a bad day at work. I had been in a meeting and had endured some standard sexism. Furious, I felt like I needed some reassurance that things for women had improved since the 60s, and they have, but not enough. But I also picked that era because that's when my mom was a mom, and the book gave me a chance to look back and see what kind of societal limits she endured, which were a lot. So that's where the inspiration to write this book came from. I think what most of us will really love about this book is its relatability. Even in today's world, right, even in 2024, all of us women still do face so much sexism. It might be casual sexism and not institutional sexism, but we still do face it every day in the smallest of things. And when you actually see Elizabeth's character going through the same moments that maybe you and I have gone through, and the way she deals with it, it kind of gives you a sense of winning over sexism. You laugh with her, you cry with her, you get angry with her, you get irritated, frustrated with her, but then you also feel a sense of victory when she kind of, wins over all these situations. Even though this is a fictional book, there are a few things that are so wonderfully written and which I feel will leave a very beautiful impact on the younger reading audience especially. So one of the things is whenever Elizabeth ends an episode of her cooking show, she ends it with a particular sentence. The sentence goes, "Children, set the table. Your mother needs a moment to herself." It's just a simple sentence, but it signifies that, even though your mother is a homemaker, even though she's maybe chosen this job to look after the house, to cook for you, that does not mean you take her for granted. It's a job that she's doing for you, and you need to respect her for it, and you definitely don't take her for granted. Another really nice moment is when Elizabeth and Calvin are having a discussion about marriage and what all it entails. And Elizabeth questions and fights back when Calvin very nonchalantly expects Elizabeth to change her name and take Calvin's last name. She questions it, saying, "Why do I need to take your last name? Why can't you take my last name?" These are very simple things, but we don't really pay attention to them. But when you actually sit and question these norms that have existed in the society, because in today's day and age, women are working equally, earning equally, sometimes even more than their male counterparts, right? Then why does a woman's identity change when she gets married? Why does she take the name of her husband? I also love how badass Elizabeth's character is, whether it's rowing on an all-male rowing team or, daring to be a scientist or the horror in that era. It's just this beautiful feminist sentiment that I think will appeal to the feminists within all of us, and it will sort of inspire you to fight our battle against gender discrimination a little bit harder. Coming to my verdict on this book gets an 8 on 10 from me. While I really enjoyed reading this book and I would definitely reread and recommend it, there are a few misses in the book that were not so great for me. So I'm quickly going to list them out as well. So for starters, some of the conversations, especially between Elizabeth and Calvin, while they're doing their household chores, seem to be a little forced. Like the science that is used in the conversations is a little forced. For example, she'll say, oh, can you hand me the sodium chloride? And like, coming from a person who is a microbiologist, you don't really talk like that in your daily life. So just to sort of establish and hammer the fact of how much into science she is, some of the conversations are the sciences first, which I did not like. I would have liked it to be more easy and free flowing. Secondly, Elizabeth's character at times is just too good, too perfect to be true. Like, she is intelligent, she's smart, she's vivacious, she's extremely hot, sexy, good at rowing, good at science, good in bed, a good mother. Like, she's just good at everything. I like my protagonists to be a little grey, right? Because that makes them more relatable. Elizabeth's character, on the other hand, is too perfect and she has everything going for her. I understand that it's a fictional character and you sort of need to show this like, really amazing woman that people will look up to, but it's a little too perfect to be real. That's my only thought against it. But having said that, I think this book is a must read for every woman. It's a great gift to give to your girlfriends, mother, sister, and actually even husbands and sons, because I think men should also read this book, because a lot of times men are not aware of the kind of sexism women have to face every step of the way. So maybe after reading this book, they'll become a little bit more aware and maybe a little bit more considerate about not being sexist. So that's it from me in this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I will of course be back with more book reviews. My next review is going to be for the Korean sensation Welcome to the Hyunam Bookshop. So please do come back for it and watch it. I will see you in the next video. Happy reading, and before you go, please hit the subscribe button.